Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're having yourselves a wonderful day. If you are a fellow Dark Souls / Elden Ring fan, I hope you're enjoying your playthrough of Shadow of the Erdtree DLC at the moment. I've recently just, played through and beat it myself. It's definitely fun and challenging for sure, so I hope you're enjoying that. But today we're going to be jumping back into the world of the SCP Foundation. Today we're checking out the Exploring Series SCP 3000. I don't know how to pronounce this word. Anantashesha, that one. So that's what we're going to be watching here today. So yeah, we're going to check this out. Links are going to be down below in the description, as always, to the Exploring Series and to the original video of his. Without my commentary and reaction, if you could do me a big favor and click on those links. If you enjoy this video of his, please go and give his video a like. Check out his channel. He's got a lot of great stuff for the SCP universe as well as other universes on his channel, so check out his content. And if you like it, do please give him a subscribe. He definitely deserves it. As you can see here, we are doing this reaction live for my YouTube members, so if you would like to come in and join our discussions that we have before, during, and after these videos, we would love to have you guys come in here. You can also get access to the videos up to a week in advance. There's a sub Discord channel for you guys. All kinds of stuff. So if you do me a favor, there's a join button down below. You can click the join button, check out the YouTube membership benefits that I offer, see if any of them have any kind of interest for you. Regardless, I just appreciate you guys hanging out, watching the videos. Really appreciate it. With all that said, let's get into it here. So again, this is SCP 3000, a word that I cannot pronounce, so I'm not going to try. Here we go.
SCP 3000, Anantashesha. The
That
SCP Foundation is aware of a number of entities that could be considered gods, or godlike in some way. Some of these are actually contained by them, while others are uncontainable, either existing outside of our physical dimension, or for some other reason. For practically all of these, though, the Foundation treats them with extreme caution, as they represent little more than threats to our existence.
I mean, yeah. What are you supposed to do against the god, right? If it doesn't really want to be contained, What are you supposed to do?
There is an exception, however.
Like, my boy Cthulhu, he's just trying to play some StarCraft. He's just trying to chill and play some StarCraft. And he's got all these weird-ass worshippers coming in here and, murdering people and, jerking off in front of him, right? He's just trying to chill out and enjoy, playing some games. I'm sure he's probably playing some Elden Ring right now, too, trying to grind away. Getting disturbed by all these weird ass people. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure there's other gods that are having the same problem.
In SCP 3000. Its status as something godlike is debatable, which we'll discuss later, but it is a rare example of a thaumiel entity, an anomalous creature that the Foundation utilizes to help their operations. Simply put, SCP 3000 is a massive eel located in the Bay of Bengal, near India.
Interesting.
3000's full size is unknown, but is believed to be between 600 and 900 kilometers long.
I was gonna say, when he said the size is unknown, I was gonna say, I wonder if it's some kind of reference to, Jormungandr, the world serpent. Like maybe it's actually unmeasurable, like how big it is, because it has some kind of tie-in with that, but I guess not.
Ending in a head 2.5 meters in diameter. 3000 is not necessarily contained, per se, but since it rarely moves, the Foundation simply patrols the region of the bay where it's located, and prevents any diving expeditions in the area. It was discovered in 1971, after a number of Bangladeshi fishermen went missing after drifting near the Indian coast, and the Foundation stepped in to investigate. Its biology is not well understood by the Foundation, but they hypothesize that it doesn't actually require any sustenance in order to continue living.
Interesting.
But it is carnivorous. It's unknown exactly what happens to prey it consumes, but during feeding, 3000 excretes a thin layer of a viscous substance that the Foundation has dubbed Y909. Its existence as a massive eel, hundreds of kilometers long, would certainly classify it as an SCP alone, much like SCP-169. But that's only the beginning of its anomalous traits. We've discussed Cognitohazards a few times before. anomalous effects that can alter an individual's mind.
So is it able to secrete something that's considered a cognitohazard? You know? That'd be weird. Whatever stuff it secretes makes you think or do things, like it can control you potentially or something like that. That'd be interesting.
Or way of thinking. And SCP-3000 itself is a cognitohazard.
Oh.
Direct observation of it will result in head pain, paranoia, fear, panic, and memory loss or alteration. And even being in a certain vicinity of the eel can result in these effects.
Huh. Interesting. That makes me wonder if it's like was placed there by something to guard something, and like it just uses it as that effect. Like it doesn't move, right? You know, so that's why they say it's contained. So I wonder if somehow someone, maybe an ancient civilization, Atlantis, whatever, you know, created this creature to guard something. It's programmed to sit there and move, and is I don't know how, like, programmed with, or has a hazard imprinted on it, or, you know, whatever. Or if it's kind of like maybe the eel part is just like some kind of puppet and the cognitohazard is just applied to it. You know, I don't know. But that'd be kind of interesting if it's some kind of guardian to something. Because otherwise, like, why else would it just be in this one spot? This giant creature doesn't need sustenance. It's not moving, so interesting.
These effects are further described in a log discussing the initial discovery and encounter with SCP-3000. A team descended in a submersible, and all of them were feeling uneasy. But one in particular began sweating profusely, stating that he was missing something, but he couldn't figure out what. He begins to act more erratically as they descend, expressing doubts about what exactly he's supposed to do down there. Other members of the team began to express similar feelings. When they finally saw the body of the eel, the erratic individual began whimpering and had to be sedated as he muttered the word "no" over and over. When they finally approached the head, several other members were complaining about feeling hazy, unsure of what they were doing here. The captain wrote it off as nitrogen intoxication. SCP-3000 turned its head to look at them, and the sedated member began barking and shrieking, claiming that it was in its head, until he smashed his face into one of the potholes, and they had to ascend due to the cracks. He had mortally injured himself, and as he lay dying, he said, "There's nothing, nothing, nothing."
Yikes.
Despite this incident, a diving expedition was ordered to personally assess the creature and investigate the source of the thick gray fluid that had been observed around its head.
Yeah, I wonder if that's part of, well, I was gonna say I wonder if that's part of it, like the cognitohazard, but then, like, if you're in a submersible, how is that getting in, right? You know what I'm saying? Unless somehow it's able to pass through with some kind of gas. You know, I don't know. But yeah, I wonder what the fluid is that it secretes, what it does, like, if anything. Or is it just supposed to be kind of like an initial, like, warning barrier kind of thing? Like, it does that, you get past that, then you start to really have, like, even more effects, you know, happen to you from its cognitohazard or something.
3 members of MTF Orion-9, Kingfishers, were sent down. The water was dark and cold, which was to be expected, but other problems began almost immediately as the team becomes confused over their call signs, both mixing up who has what designation, and one of them even being confused by the word designation. The leader also addresses someone back at the command station who had been dead for 2 years.
Yikes.
Regardless, command tells the team to continue towards the entity, but each of them are completely confused about where they are. As they continue approaching, one of the members begins to utter ominous phrases concerning oblivion and dark eyes. SCP-3000 begins to rapidly approach them, and their radios go silent for 30 seconds. When they come back, it's clear that the team is in chaos, and one of the members has been eaten. The leader seems to have completely forgotten who he is, where he is and what he's doing. He soon gets eaten as well.
Yikes.
Only one of the team remains, and he still seems to be somewhat coherent, claiming that it's extremely difficult to form thoughts well near 3000. He says that it's coiled inside of his head, and that it's just sitting there in front of him. He sees the fluid seeping out of its skin around its head, and he goes to retrieve a sample, sending it up towards the surface. He finishes by saying not to send anyone else out here.
Yeah, no kidding.
His breathing could be heard over his radio for 3 days before ceasing. I mentioned at the start that SCP-3000 is a thaumial entity, meaning it somehow assists the SCP Foundation in their operations, and you may be wondering how a giant eel that messes with your head does so.
Well, and also, like, wouldn't they, I mean, maybe they have, obviously, like, I haven't read the actual article, but you would think standard procedure for something like this would be to send, like, some kind of unmanned submersible first, and, like, look around it, see what happens, but I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe they've done that and the submersibles would get destroyed, or there would be some kind of issue with them, you know, not working or losing connection, so that's why they would send down real people to actually report back, but I don't know.
The answer is in the gray fluid excreted from the entity, called the Y909 compound. The Foundation utilizes a large number of amnestics during their work, chemicals that cause an individual to forget certain things.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but they're also already sending down submersibles anyway, so, like, you're losing a submersible and people when you could just lose the submersible. You know what I mean?
These chemicals are vital for keeping the secrecy of the Foundation and the SCPs intact.
Oh, so is this where they get their amnestics from? They take this thing's fluid and they make memory wiping drugs from it?
As well as helping many SCP personnel cope with things they have experienced. For a number of years, the Foundation's amnestics were rudimentary, breaking down fairly quickly in storage, causing a number of side effects, and had often questionable efficacy overall.
That again makes me think that this is guarding something. Because, like, if it's a creature that excretes some kind of fluid that affects humans, at least in a way to where they forget, right? And then if, for whatever reason, that barrier doesn't work on them, it then gets in their head and essentially makes them go crazy or kill themselves or lose their memory in other ways, like, it still makes me think it's guarding something, because again, it also doesn't move from that position unless someone comes close to it and makes it, like, move. It's got to deal with something approaching. So the
inclusion of the Y909 compound has greatly increased the stability and effectiveness of the Foundation's amnestics, however.
I'd say so.
Allowing them to store for much longer, a significant decrease in side effects, an increase in suggestibility and memory clearance, and little to no intrusive memories years after their use. The Foundation has come to completely rely on the Y909 compound, with no means to synthetically reproduce it, and so the ATZAC protocol is introduced. The protocol is simple enough. It involves deliberately feeding a sedated D-class to SCP-3000, which causes it to excrete the Y909 compound. A specialized team of deep-sea divers then approached the entity within 2.5 hours after feeding.
There's a lot of D-class people that get screwed over from a lot of SCPs, man. Like this guy, the deer, a lot of the D-class guys that have to go through those rituals, man. Like, you know, like, you think you're signing up to work for the SCP Foundation or some kind of cool position, then it turns out you're just end up becoming a red shirt and get thrown at one of these guys. You know what I'm saying? Like,
during which its Cognitohazard effects are lessened. They collect as much as they can of the fluid and return to the surface. The rest of the SCP-3000 report concerns 2 doctors, a researcher, Dr. Krishna Morthy, and his staff clinical psychologist, Dr. Manava. The psychologist was assigned to the researcher after he attempted to exit out of the SCP-3000 monitoring submarine without diving equipment.
Yikes.
The researcher begins discussing how he feels tired, and his body is beginning to feel disconnected from his mind. He's forgetting things about his work and his life, and he's been having dreams featuring people he doesn't recognize, and places he's never been. It's clear that his proximity to 3000 is greatly affecting his memories, as he is unsure if he's even married, or if he has children, despite having 5 of them. He does see 3000 in his mind, however, and at this point he begins discussing Anantashesha, the king of serpents in Hinduism, that lies beneath the god Vishnu in the cosmos. He recalls that his mother told him once that when the light of the universe had gone out, Anantashesha would be all that is left, past the end of time. He believes that SCP-3000 is Anantashesha, a god that exists across all of time simultaneously. He says, in defiance of the nothingness that comes after this, all of this, there is Anantashesha. There's a chance that my memories might live on, that I might be remembered like the memories I've seen have been through me. I don't have proof of this, but when I looked into its eyes and saw what it showed me, I was afraid. I'm merely a mediocre man, Anand. This was a fear that I have refused to acknowledge for years, a fear of irrelevance, that no one will know who I am when I die, afraid of being forgotten, afraid of my life being meaningless, afraid of being alone, afraid of dying. There is a terror within me that I cannot reconcile, Anand. I won't lie to you and tell you that the maw of the Naga does not terrify me as well, but between this and the infinite dark I have gazed into, I have made up my mind. Dr. Krishna Morthy was held in containment for 2 days before being released. 3 hours later, he approaches the airlock to the submarine while weeping and prepares to open it. Proximity alarms begin to blare as SCP-3000 approaches the submarine. The doctor puts on a diving suit and exits the submarine before anyone can stop him. 3000 approaches him and opens its jaws wide. The last thing the doctor says is that he was wrong, and sobs as the eel consumes him.
Yikes.
The rest of the crew begin preparing to carry out the ATZAC protocol. We're given some excerpts from...
So, I mean, it is interesting, again, that it seems like this creature doesn't need sustenance. So it's like, if it doesn't need sustenance, why is it then consuming them? Unless, I guess, potentially it, I don't know. There could be any number of meanings. Maybe it just enjoys killing something. Or maybe because it is a god, if it is a god, and it is living outside of time, who knows? Maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But that is just something that kind of like popped in my head, like if it doesn't need to eat something to survive, then you eat something for like the pleasure of eating it, I guess. So maybe it enjoys that for some reason.
From Dr. Manava's call. We're given some excerpts from Dr. Manava's journal, in which he discusses that he now has to figure out why Dr. Krishna Morthy became suicidal, and how to prevent it from happening to any of the other personnel. He writes that he's not a very religious man, and doesn't believe SCP-3000 to be anything other than an anomalous eel. He racks his brain thinking about his father and his teachings of Hinduism.
I mean, I don't know, man. An eel that large that secretes some kind of stuff that makes people forget, and it gets in people's minds and can make them do things and I guess potentially talk to them. Sounds like more than just another anomalous creature, you know what I'm saying?
But cannot recall much. Thinking about his father and his teachings of Hinduism, but cannot recall much. Although he blames this less on the eel and more on his own willful forgetfulness. He was allowed to look through Krishnamurthy's effects and keep any that he wished, and so for some reason he decides to take a statue of the god Ganesh. Manava is aware that his continual proximity to SCP-3000 is draining his memories, both from his youth and more recently. He makes an attempt to learn some Hindu poems and songs, but can't seem to memorize any of them. We're given a memorandum from the site director that elaborates somewhat on the Y-909 compound and the ATZAC protocol. The Foundation originally believed it to be blood, but it's more akin to a prion slurry. Prolonged exposure to the compound is pretty similar to prolonged exposure to 3000. Some of the biologists believe that when SCP-3000 consumes a human, it is breaking down some part of their brains that makes them sapient. And the residual substance from this process is Y-909. They also found that SCP-3000 is not digesting these humans at all, and their bodies are still inside of it. In other words, SCP-3000 is capable of breaking down and devouring the human mind, causing them to forget their own existence, and the Foundation is purposefully encouraging this in order to create powerful amnestics.
Pretty fucked up. That's pretty fucked up. So then I wonder if it like feeds on memories. You know what I mean? Like, does it feed on the memories of people? And that's why even when you're in radius of it, like you start losing memories because it's like in your brain psychically, and it's just like sucking the memories out of you. Interesting.
The ethics committee and the
I mean, again, technically, they're saying it's Cognitohazard, so I mean, maybe the eel itself, that part of it doesn't actually exist, you know? I mean, I don't know. You know, because the Cognitohazard could make you think and see whatever. So it could just be something that's in the area, and it might not necessarily be the eel, but like, then whatever. I guess then what would be the explanation of the secretion, the compound that gets generated from that, you know? I don't know.
Classification powerful amnestics. The ethics committee and the classification committee are looking for ways to make this more tolerable, but since the Foundation really depends on these amnestics, the process continues.
Oh, excuse me. I mean, I guess it might not be possible to like synthesize, but you would think they would have tried, right? You would think they would try their best to, you know, recreate it and synthesize something from it. That could be man-made instead of having to sacrifice people, you know, I guess. But, you know, like, it's one thing in the case of like the deer. Like, the deer is a being that, you know, if let loose, could destroy the planet, kind of a thing. This creature seems to be self-contained, sitting there chilling, and you're sacrificing people to gain essentially a drug for other uses. You know, even if they are potentially good uses, still, it's pretty morally questionable. You know what I mean?
The final log is another journal page from Dr. Manava. He has been spending a great amount of time studying the effects of SCP-3000, but still has no idea what would cause a sane man to step out of an airlock into its mouth.
True.
Earlier that week, he had knocked over a picture of him and his family, and found that there was writing on the other side, with his name, his wife's name, and his daughter's name. However, the writing was in Dr. Krishna Morthy's hand, not his own. This puzzled Manava, and he began to be stressed by the uncertainty of it. Finally, he went into the personnel archives and discovered the truth. The woman was in fact Krishna Morthy's first wife, and the girl was one of his daughters. Manava had believed that they were his wife and daughter, but more than that, he had memories of them that he now realized were in fact Krishna Morthy's memories.
So it's able to swap memories from people too? Interesting.
This realization causes him to finally understand exactly what SCP-3000 does. It breaks down and destroys human consciousness, the spark of thought that makes us unique and what we believe to be a soul, and then scatters it. It leaves a husk behind that is nothing more than electrical signals passing through matter that will someday become inert. He writes, "If even I can't remember myself, how can I expect anyone else to remember me? I have forgotten my own life, and I am strangely apathetic at this revelation. I will fade into the darkness, as thousands before me have, and thousands after me will. No one will care, as I am forgotten. I do not despair for my own sake, but for us all, you and I. We will all face obliteration. I am not important. You are not important.
Damn.
Vast droplets of irrelevancy, stretching eons in the sea of time. We may fight against it, but our enemy is inevitability. I do not think that the eel is Anantashesha. I don't think it would matter if it was. What is clear to me now, as I feel myself coming apart, is not that the eel is some mythological creature, or divine serpent. Perhaps it's just a primitive creature that eluded us, holding no malice. Perhaps it really is a primordial deity, harboring resent beneath the surface. The eel is not the harbinger of my demise, or humanity's doom. The eel is not the end of all things. It only shows us what the end looks like. And in spite of everything we might believe, every ideal we hold or providence we pray for, I know this much is true for all of us. Our end will be a forgotten one."
Damn, talk about giving you a midlife crisis, you know, an existential crisis here, man. I mean, like, I get that that's kind of like, as people, as we live our lives and we're, you know, we know that inevitably we're going to die. We want to leave some kind of legacy for people to remember us by. And so the idea of, I guess, not even necessarily knowing yourself and what you did, but then others also not necessarily knowing who you were and what you did too. Like, yeah, that would make things seem like kind of pointless, and existence to be kind of pointless. And that, yeah, what he's saying is, you know, true in those ways. So I don't know. Good old SCP so cheerful. Yeah, for real, dude. For real. I mean, it's just, it just gives stuff like this just makes me have more questions. It's like, again, it feels to me like this is guarding something, but that could just be me, you know, thinking that, you know what I mean? It just could be my own, like, preferences or whatever, trying to put that into the story. Because it's like, okay, why is this creature just there? Why wouldn't it just, like, go somewhere else if it's timeless and immortal? You know, even still, a timeless immortal being would get bored and want to move somewhere or go somewhere and do something. You know what I mean? Unless for whatever reason it's like trapped there and can't move or something like that. And then, yeah, it's just weird that, like, it's able to take, like, human consciousness and memory and stuff like that and just, like, not only necessarily destroy it, but transpose it into other people, like swap memories around and potentially, you know, again, this is a Cognitohazard, so maybe the eel isn't even a real thing. You just think you're seeing an eel. Maybe there's something else there. And maybe there's no real rhyme or reason or purpose to it. But the other thing is like, once a consciousness has been destroyed and scattered, it like, maybe that's just the side effect of the consciousness being broken down as that fluid, you know? That's like the, I guess, physical repercussion of the consciousness being eradicated, you know, in a physical sense. And so are you then taking that fluid and putting it in someone and ingesting it? Are you just like literally eating liquid, someone's like liquid consciousness or whatever? You know, I don't know. Like I said, this is leaving me with a lot more questions. But anyway, let's continue.
Dr. Manava was later and will be a forgotten one. Dr. Manava was later discovered near the airlock after consuming a significant amount of raw Y909. Unresponsive, he was moved to Site-151 for analysis. SCP-3000 is a dark SCP,
Oh shit.
and the concept of destroying memories and human consciousness makes what would otherwise just be an enormous eel much more interesting.
Well, and it also makes you wonder, like, is it just humans? Have they put any other creatures, animals there? You know, does it affect other SCPs? Will it remove their consciousness, or is it something that specifically is targeting humans? And if it is, then why? You know, if it really is this eel and it really just wants to, you know, target humans specifically to remove human consciousness, like, why is that? Is there would have to be some kind of like reason behind that, or maybe that's just what its natural thing is. You know, I don't know. Maybe it's a predator and that's what its natural thing to do is like eat consciousness that is evolved to a certain point. I don't know. But again, like, stuff like this just brings up more questions.
Existential dread affects many people from time to time throughout their life, and it's not unusual to be concerned with who will remember you, what will they remember you for, and ultimately, your purpose here. Dr. Manava was probably right that SCP
the most fascinating part of the SCP-3000 is the eel itself, is the fact that it introduces the concept of Samurai class SCPs to add to safe loot. Gotcha. Well, and I mean, it also the moral questionability of the SCP Foundation doing what it's doing as well for this is also very telling. Like, you're literally sacrificing human lives to gain a drug. Granted, that drug may help some people in some ways, and there may be certain, you know, instances of an SCP or something happening to someone who is traumatized so much that they need to be wiped, or another Cognitohazard gets loosed, and the only way to protect against, you know, its effects is to take an amnestic to wipe their memory. So, like, in some ways it's justifiable, but in some ways it's like not, you know what I mean? I don't know. It's one of those things where it's very morally, like, what do you do? It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because you're sacrificing potentially innocent people. You know, aren't most D classes criminals? You know, so I mean, I guess technically, depending on what they've done, maybe as an SCP person, you could select the worst of the worst, you know, and say, hey, yeah, you know, we're gonna commute your sentence, we'll lessen it if you do this thing for us, ha 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 ha, and then you get fed to an eel, kind of a situation. I mean, it's still morally questionable, but at least, you know, someone who is a villain, potentially a murderer, or done other worse things is being sacrificed, and not just some Joe Schmo innocent person who's signing up to work for the SCP Foundation and they just get made into a D class because they failed every exam. So I don't know. For me personally, it's always one of those things where it's like, there's got to be a better way to find, you know, something like this. But then again, you go back to the story of the deer, and it's like, there is no other way. You got to go through this ritual, and people have to be sacrificed, and things have to be done in a certain way. So this very well could be another situation like that, where it's like, for the greater good, you have to sacrifice people to get this liquid, because the amnestic that's produced can't prevent other more terrible things from happening. So thermals are usually super classified and used to contain other SCPs or help the Foundation in some way, right? Yeah, it's easy to get used to and desensitized to the fact that the SCP most likely goes through a shit ton of D-class per day. True. It's been mentioned before that when they go through a lot of D-class, sometimes they have to draw from other sources. I've always personally felt like a lot of homeless people. I mean, yeah, that too. And that's also kind of shitty, because, again, they could be just someone who's down on their luck, you know? Maybe some person show up in an orange jumpsuit being fed to a god someday. Right. So, anyway, I guess let's finish up the video here.
SCP-3000 Dr. Manava was probably right that SCP-3000 is not a deity that exists throughout all of time, but it is certainly a powerful entity. There are many SCPs that can kill, or maim, or horrify humans, but there aren't that many that can destroy what it means to be human. And that makes SCP-3000 pretty unique.
True. That is actually an interesting point at the very end. It's not just killing a human, it's killing what it means to be human by essentially erasing them. Like, if you can't remember someone, then who says they really exist? Because that affects our perception of reality, you know? If someone you love, family member, you know, if you were to just all of a sudden forget about them, then have they really ever actually existed? You know, to you, they don't. Maybe, you know. So, like, that is kind of a good point. Let's see what the quote is here at the end. Someday soon, perhaps in 40 years, there will be no one alive who has ever known me. That's when I will be truly dead. While I exist in no one's memory, I thought a lot about how someone very old is the last living individual to have known some person or cluster of people. When that person dies, the whole cluster dies. Vanishes from living memory. I wonder who that person will be for me. Whose death will make me truly dead? Irvin, do you? Yeah. To be honest, that's something that I've thought about a lot too. You know, like, I'm 42 years old. I don't have kids or anything like that at the moment, but it's like, you know, at some point in time, if I were to have a family, you know, it's going to have to happen within sometime somewhat soon. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the idea of, you know, what is there to pass on when you die, and how long does that memory last? You know? And just to think about too, like, 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, do the things that we enjoy, will they endure? The music that we listen to, the movies that we watch, the stories that we read, all that kind of, the games that we play, you know, things that we like really cherish and enjoy and love now, will they endure into the future? Will that legacy last? You know, things like that. I think about stuff like that all the time, you know. It really, like, on the one hand, being immortal would be a curse, but on another hand, it would also be fascinating just so you could, like, live through the ages and see how things progress and change, and almost kind of be like a library sum of human knowledge, and just watch how we progress and change and advance, you know. It would be fascinating in that sense, but it would also be a curse in the sense of, you know, anytime you fall in love with someone, eventually you're gonna have to watch them die. But at the same time, you know, if you have any kind of offspring, you can always watch them, you know, watch your lineage kind of throughout time and see what happens to them and where they go, and et cetera, and perhaps guide them throughout the time, throughout various times, you know, etc. I don't know. These are just things that my brain goes and thinks about. But yeah, interesting video. I've kind of already gave all my thoughts about that, mostly really kind of about the moral questionability of it, but I think it's probably just one of those things where it comes down to, you know, what's happening is for the greater good. Those people are being killed to get a drug that can, you know, potentially contain and help people for the greater good of the SCP Foundation. So, you know, it is what it is. Again, kind of alluding back to the story of the deer and what has to happen to contain that, you know, entity being. So, but yeah, great video. As always, links will be down below in the description to this video and to the SCP Exploring Series channel. If you do me a favor, click those links. Go check out this video if you enjoyed it. You know, give it a like. If you enjoy his content on his channel, give him a sub. We're doing this live, as you can see, for my members. If you'd like to come in and join the discussions before, during, and after these videos, we'd love to have you guys come in here. You can get early access to videos up to a week. There's a you know, members Discord channel, a lot of other things. So check out those benefits. See if any of that would have any kind of interest for you. Regardless, thank you just very much for just coming in and hanging out and watching the video. Appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to do so. Consider leaving a like and a sub if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good day, everyone.